Now you cannot be everywhere. I mean, there is something that the private banks have learned is that you need to know your customer, you need to know your market, so you have to make some choice. So it's a fact that if you want to go to Asia, you need to compete against local players. I will not cite them, but in Singapore or in Hong Kong, they are very strong. And for some brands, it's quite challenging. Some have gone there and failed. America, it's the same. I mean, to be in private banking or wealth management in America, you are in it or you are not. You cannot do it half. And it's quite, it's a big country and it's a challenging market. And for Europe, it's the same. I mean, there are some choice to make. I mean, do you want to have a private bank in France or in Germany? It's domestic versus international. I mean, so a lot of opportunities, that would be my answer. There are some choice to be made, and they are not always easy. Some mistakes are made, sometimes by large groups in terms of selection of markets. But there is something where, and I join what Sebastian said, there is something where there is a fantastic opportunity, and you should not decide if you need to go there or not, is that we need to adapt to the next generation, for sure. Because I've been in the industry for 30 years. I've always adapted. I've always ensured we adapt. But I think there is an acceleration of what we need to do because, yes, the millennials are changing the way, will change the way we deliver the service.
Absolutely. I mean, the beauty about a bank is you have the client's trust. So the biggest, your wealth, your money, your investments is all actually held in a very trusted environment. What does that actually connect it with as well? That's another area is potentially also health. So in Asia, for example, now there's also the trend in connecting wealth with health products, because then you're already, another topic close to their heart is the health planning, their health history. And just really thinking outside the box, would that not be also a product potentially a financial industry could align with insurances? The whole consolidated information is actually at one place. So it's not just a banker that I can relate to my financial consultation for, but potentially it's an area where I can best get a best consultation for my health matters.
But yeah, I think we are all running, to adapt to change. And it's probably why some very large groups are struggling to create, to be a disruptor, because it's easier to disrupt when you start from nothing, so probably. But anyway, I think the challenges we face is to adapt, is to adapt to change mainly. So if I take the clients, they are more savvy on financial markets, on investments. So the way I was doing private banking, and I'm sure you will share it in the room, 15 years ago, and the way we do it today is completely different. I mean, 15 years ago, it was a story between a private banker and a client. That's it. Today, it's the way we do it at Barclays Private Bank is to have, of course, a private banker, but also an investment advisor in charge of the relationship on investments with the clients, but also a full battery of specialists that engage with the client as soon as needed. An equity specialist, a fixed income specialist, blah, 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 a wealth planner. So it's the team approach. So I think we had to adapt to the change in the client's knowledge and needs. And it's a fact that markets are complex. Maybe they were also complex in the past, but we have decided to do it better. Also, we see clients changing their habits. If I take the example of Asia, when I was based in Hong Kong, it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago in Hong Kong, wealth management was about equity brokerage, accumulators, highly leveraged, and that's it. Today, it's about more and more discretionary. I mean, so 20 years ago, if you were trying to push a mandate, a balanced mandate, people were like, no. So we had to adapt the offering in Hong Kong and Singapore for North Asia and South Asia, because they are joining a bit more what we do in all Europe and in Switzerland in particular. So there are also this change in the proposition that we need to do. If I may cite a third one, the list is long. It's about regulation. I mean, of course, we had to FIDLEG, MiFID II. You all know this. We had to adapt also on this. It's about systems, how you do things now. So working for a UK bank, of course, we want to use regulation as a strength. We have to do it anywhere. So what we say is banks in the UK are highly regulated by the FCA. It's probably the most restrictive, more complicated regulation. And we use it for clients to say, well, I'm highly regulated, I'm highly monitored, so if you bank with me, you will have a different service. But what I'm saying here is that there are different ways to adapt to regulation. I think we should do it positively.
And actually adding to the point to the regulatory side, of course, the financial industry is heavily regulated. We saw the whole, how shall I call it, since the financial crisis, the whole adaptation and collaboration with the regulators on international level is super important. Yet, of course, like the customer itself is also changing in the lifestyle. If we look at communication, if we look at client meetings and engagements, that is not the classic necessarily model in the former past days where you meet your client in a meeting room or over dinner, and then now everything is also digitalized. So we're using, people are asking for video calls. Can we use third-party messaging apps? And I think the financial industry has now also collaborated openly also with different countries. So if I look at my former home country in Singapore, the MES actually puts up certain sandboxes. They say, okay, would you as a bank come and test a solution with us? Let's just put all the cards on the table and let's see if we can actually mutually work on a case. And we see that actually very fruitful. If you look at Singapore, it's one of the fintech countries now in the world. We also see the adoption also here in the European countries. The FINMA is also very open to that as well. And it needs to be the transparency created in order not to lose client base. And also secondly, in order to maintain best in class and not being disrupted also from the tech companies. That's definitely to be considered.
I think the big elephant in the room is employment. Who do we hire? And how do we develop them? And how do we keep them as a result? We need to re-examine the workforce that we have today and the environment that we employ people in to enable us to achieve some of the evolutionary change that Jean-Christophe and Céline have outlined, which is it's unfair to expect the current workforce, many of them, to be adaptive to this situation. That doesn't mean they're bad. It's just the industry has moved on. It's a bit like the energy sector when you had thousands and thousands of miners whose primary job was to go down every day, dig something out, and come back out. And you then turn around to them and say, hey, boys, it's the solar industry. It's another source of power. Can you go to the plant? They're like, I haven't got a clue. You either have to retrain them, which is one investment, or you recruit, or you do both. I do think, so actually Celine's very interesting. I think she shared with me earlier, she won't mind. She's, a millennial. She's brought back to the industry, having been in it, and then developed a startup and come back. The openness for returnees in our space is very low. And we're not creating the environment to bring people back. There's people here I know that have left the sector to create their own businesses. That's the big industry's loss. At some point, maybe they'll return, they might monetize. But we do need to think about where we recruit, how we recruit. We've got to make this industry interesting again. If I ask my child, if you ask your kids, would you like to become a wealth manager, a private banker? I mean, in fact, you even have to say two different phrases. Well, we know the answer. But that's a shame, right? Because when I explain to my kids, you're going to be dealing with the most amazing people, the top 5% of the population of the world that drive 50% of GDP. These people move markets, move countries, move societies. These people change lives. And you're going to help them to do that. Well, who wouldn't say yes? But we don't say that.